It's the internet, you're busy, let's do this. I'm Jeff Grubb with GamesBeat.com, and today we're talking about building PCs and how it's a really great time to be doing so. But the clock is ticking. So it is a good time to build a PC, but the rug could get pulled out from underneath us any moment now. I want to hesitate, I want to back away from like fear-mongering, but that is a possibility, and I'll talk about why in a second. But first, like, it's a good time because in 2017 we had the cryptocurrency craze that absolutely devastated the GPU market. Miners of various Bitcoin-like digital currencies all around the world were buying every NVIDIA and AMD Radeon GPU they could get their hands on, and that led to a global shortage and global, massive demand, and prices skyrocketed. And it was a really bad time to be trying to build a PC, last year was. Things have stabilized. They've normalized. We are at a point where you could be building a PC for a reasonable price, with the exception of maybe like memory is still pretty expensive, but even that's starting to sort of slowly trend downwards, which is great. So I would say it's a good time to build a PC, but I would go further than that, and I would say you should build a PC right now if you have any plans to do so in the near future. You should do it immediately. You shouldn't hesitate. Let's get into why right now. So tariffs and trade wars are dumb. It's not a political statement, I don't think, to say that, because you would have a really hard time of finding any economist, no matter which way they vote, what party they're affiliated with, almost no matter what they believe. Very, very few think tariffs are a useful tool for a government to perform trade policy, to enact trade policy. It just does not get what you want. What it is going to get us is effectively a sales tax on the American people. So products come into the country from somewhere like China that is going to be heavily tariffed by January 1st. Some already went into effect on October 1st, and they include almost everything you see in this PC and just about everything else coming from China. They come into the customs port in the United States. At that point, the customs agents, they determine that a product is imported from China. They say this gets a tax, or a tariff tax for this reason, and now you got to pay us. And you is the importing company, the company that imported these goods. Oftentimes that is Samsung imports, sends something from Korea, they send it to the United States, and the United States branch of Samsung is the importing company. So it's still the same company kind of paying for it in a lot of cases. That the importing company just writes a check to the U.S. Department of whatever, I can't remember what it is, doesn't matter. But they write a check, and now they've spent significantly more money bringing these products into the country than they would have otherwise. That money is not something that most of these companies can just absorb, because profit margins on a lot of these products, on most products, are pretty slim. Take a power supply, for instance. It's a commodity. Commodities are things like microwaves that are they've been around for decades now. The technology that goes into building these has been refined and perfected to the point where you can make these products very, very inexpensively and sell them at a very small price, and the market is flooded with options. It's a commodity. And with the thing about commodities is their profit margins are always pretty low. And you see that that's one of the reasons we get so many things that are branded as gaming in the PC gaming space. You could try to put a premium price on something if you put the word gaming in front of it. And one of the reasons companies do that is to increase that profit margin, so they have a little bit more of a cushion. But that cushion is still very minuscule. Minuscule. I struggle with that word. And so if you throw a 10 to 25% import tax on there, that money's got to come from somewhere, and they're going to pass it down the line to distributors and retailers, and then they don't have great margins necessarily either. And maybe some of it gets absorbed along the way, but in the end, the person's going to be paying for all this stuff is the American consumer. It is effectively a sales tax. So when we are paying more for stuff, what we're going to do is maybe this could hurt China because we look for alternatives. But like I've said, there aren't a lot of alternatives to the things that are in here. They're almost, many of these things are 90% made in China. It's a number I just pulled out of thin air. But in general, that's kind of the way it feels, the way it is. And so without having the manufacturing capacity or even the ability to move these things to other countries, manufacturers are going to be, they're just not going to have a choice other than just to pay these tariffs. And that means prices are going to go up at retail, and every PC is going to get more expensive to build going forward. So when is that going to happen? We don't know. It feels like it's going to happen soon. Companies are rushing to get as much stuff into the country as they could before the October 1st date of the first set of tariffs. And they will continue to do so through the end of the year, so that they try to get as much in warehouses here that they can have ready to go that weren't taxed with the tariff. Because once they're in the country, it counts as you're in the country. Now it's domestic good. So yeah, it's a long way of saying it's bad. Tariffs are they don't help anyone really. If they do end up helping specific groups, maybe there's taxes on steel and aluminum, and maybe U.S. steel manufacturers will benefit. But steel prices go up across the board for everyone else, and what that does, it has a return effect where everyone else is paying more for steel, so then everyone else has to raise their prices, and so when the steel company goes out to buy products and tools and all kinds of other goods that they need to create steel, they're paying more now because they've been protected. It's bad economics. It just is, period. It's not good. So don't let anyone make you feel bad for kind of speaking out about how dumb this is, or make you think like you're being political, which, even if you were, that's fine. You're not. You're just against really dumb things, which you should be. So I've had a really good time building these PCs. Like I said, let's go over what's in each and what it's been like and why the experience was so good. So the Intel machine is an Intel Core i7 8086K. There's an NZXT Kraken X72 liquid cooler on there. And then that's all built into an NZXT N7 motherboard. For memory, we have HyperX Fury's 16 gigabytes of DDR4 3200 megahertz. There is an Intel 800p Optane storage drive as the boot drive. Then we have a sort of fast file drive as well from Intel, which is the Optane 660p. And then there's a big Steam drive, Seagate Barracuda 2 terabyte, 7200 RPM internal hard drive. The video card, that's one of the reasons we built these machines is to have sort of a good thing that we could kind of put as a test platform. This was on a bench. I kind of put it in the case just for this video. It's a GeForce RTX 2080 Ti. That's the big boy. It's a really good card. Really happy with it. The case is an NZXT H700, and then the power supply also NZXT E650W. That's an 80 plus gold certified power supply. So for the Intel machine, the price gets up there pretty fast, mostly because we're using the 8086K and the 2080 Ti. And then for the AMD machine, we have the Ryzen 7 2700X. This is their top of the line sort of gaming CPU. It is an 8-core, 3.7 gigahertz processor with 16 threads. It's really good for gaming and really, really excellent for video work and production and stuff like that. That's built onto, it's using the stock cooler, which I like, and then that's built on the Gigabyte Aorus X470 Ultra gaming motherboard. Again, that same HyperX Fury 16 gigabytes of DDR4 3200 megahertz memory. For the storage in here, there's a boot drive of the Samsung 970 EVO NVMe M2 drive, 500 gigabytes. That's a lot of space and a lot of speed. It's a very good storage solution. I really like that a lot. Then there's a 3 terabyte Seagate Barracuda hard drive in there as well. For For the video card, it's the 2080 RTX from NVIDIA. And again, it's a big, beefy, expensive card. One of the reasons these machines cost so much is just because of the GPUs. And then there's the Cooler Master H500M case, which I really like as well. I think these are like the two like design ethos ideas right now. Well, I mean, no RGB is clearly one of the other ones too. But for the most part, having a kind of like minimal look is what NZXT will get you. Cooler Master is going to get you big, loud, and just like obvious great thermals. Just really going to bringing in a lot of cool, fresh air and great lighting. I really like this case. And then there's I believe, an EVGA Supernova G3 850W in there, which is a bit of an overkill. I might swap that out for something else eventually. So yeah. And that one, this one's about, $2,000. The reason for, I mean, like I said, the big difference is just the difference in graphics cards. I had a lot of fun building these machines, like I've said a couple times already. But I want to talk about why you should build it now, because the prices were low, I think, for quite a few of these components. Like I said, the 8086 was getting down in price to the point where it started to make some sense. And it's like, had you bought at that point, that's a pretty good chip at that price, in that price range. But things are only going to get more expensive. So if this is like a $2,800 PC right now, if you add 10% to that, that's another $280. If you add 20%, that's $460 more for this PC. Now, I mean, that's the high end. On the high end, things are you're going to feel that increase way more. And the point is, though, is that the high end and like all through anything above like $1,500, you get a lot of options about how you want to spec out your PC. There's a lot more choices at that point. But if you get let's just talk about the low end. If you want to build a low end, or not a low end, but like a low end gaming PC, an entry level gaming PC that is also still very good, a very good entry level gaming PC, you're talking about $850 to maybe $1,000. And like at $1,000, you could do a 1070, and you could do maybe, if you're willing to go up to 1090ish, you could maybe start getting in the range of 1070 Ti or 1080 maybe even, especially as sales come along. And then you compare that with an i5 8400, which is another 6-core CPU that's really great for gaming and very good for productivity. And that's like that's a really good machine. And then at that point, though, you sort of have to slot in. You only have so many choices to slot in to fill out the rest of the components. If you want 16 gigabytes of RAM, you could do that at that point. But you're gonna there's a few things that are in that price range. If you want to have an SSD to boot from and then storage on the side, yeah, those exist at that price point. But there's not a ton to pick from. And then the cases, maybe the cases where you still have plenty of choice. But the point is that if prices go up, let's say 20 to 25%, the PC that you could get at $1,000 right now is going to suddenly go out of your price range. And if you want to spend the same $1,000 in a couple of months, let's say 6 months, you're going to end up having to get a PC that is, you're going to have to end up getting something that maybe costs $850 today. So you're just getting less for your money. That's what it means. That's what it comes down to. And that means, and at that price range, in that range, there's not a lot of room to maneuver. You're probably still going to want to go with the i5 8400 because it's one that's readily available. And if prices are going up, everyone's going to swap out, or is going to buy up as much as they can of everything else, other alternatives that are in that i5 8400 zone, for maybe the last couple of gens from Intel and AMD. You could, of course, the AMD Ryzen 5 is also the 2600, completely viable as well. But again, that's going to be affected by the same price increases. If you want to buy one of these, if you want to build a machine in that price range, you are still going to have to sort of get all of the same components that you were getting already for memory and storage. Maybe you could do a slightly smaller hard drive for your Steam space, and maybe you could settle with 8 gigabytes of RAM instead of 16 for quite a while. You could just run the game and maybe Discord in the background, and that's it. And you could get away with that for sure. There are some sacrifices you could make, but for the most part, the money is going to have to come from the GPU. It feels like, because there's not a lot of room to go below an i5 and still have a decent gaming rig. You're going to really be cutting off a lot of performance, and that feels bad. So you're going to go and you're going to end up going from like a 1070 to a 1060 and maybe lower, 1050 Ti. That's possible as well. And again, none of this deals with the possibility of shortages. If companies are holding out hope that the tariffs are going to go away, there is a good possibility that for quite some time they're going to hold off on bringing new product into the United States so that they don't have to pay tariffs on them, just in case next week the tariffs are gone, and then they can bring them in then and satisfy all the demand all at once. And again, people are going to be rushing out to buy a lot of these things because of what I'm saying here. It's time to act. It's time to make a PC right now. And if people are doing that, these components are going to get just completely ripped from the market, and then prices are going to go up even more because supply and demand. I think it's going to get messy. Honestly, it is. Hopefully, maybe there's an out. Maybe something happens. Maybe the trade war gets resolved. But the point is, right now, no one knows if that's going to happen ever, let alone in the next couple of weeks or before January 1st. So, yes. So let's wrap this up. I really like PC gaming right now. I want more people to be able to get into it. I want you to be able to get in and enjoy what I enjoy about PC gaming. And I thought that this story was going to be, yes, now's the time to do that. You could feel good about it again. It's really kind of foolproof to go in there and make something that you're going to be able to get a lot of enjoyment out of. A huge leap over the consoles. And there's just a lot of fun things to play around with right now. Like I said, the storage and monitors are really interesting, even if they're in a flux state at the moment. But and there's a million people making keyboards and mice that are so like that at this point. There's one out there for you for sure, and it's fun to experiment with those and get like a really good mouse and really good keyboard, stuff like that. There's just like it's a fun space to play around in right now. And I don't think in 6 months, I think a lot of us are going to feel pretty bad about it. We're going to feel it's going to be a bummer to think about the PC space, just because it's going to be so expensive. That's not to say that this stuff's not going to affect consoles. Man, it almost certainly will. But they're at a point where they've lowered their price quite a bit, and they were likely making a profit on systems, and so they could just kind of focus on cutting some more costs. Maybe they'll introduce another cheaper models. They could do that, and that'll work for them. And then once the tariffs are gone, they'll make even more of a profit on those systems. Who knows? But the PC space, there's just not a lot of room to maneuver. The manufacturers don't have a huge profit margin. The products that serve certain spaces, certain segments of mainstream hardcore gamers, there are a few select components that work really well that are also in plentiful supply, and if those go out of your price range, you're sort of just left with nothing else. There's no ground to go to. There is no retreat you can make, except for to make a huge processing power leap downward. And yeah, that's not fun. It stinks. So yeah, sorry to be a bummer. And I guess I'm not trying to, like I said, I'm not trying to be a fearmonger. I'm not trying to get you to think like, oh God, I have to go spend all this money I don't have on a PC right now. I should go max out my credit card to do this. Don't do that. Look at your own situation and do what's best for you. But if you were saving your money and you were setting it aside and you were ready to build a PC at some point in the near future or over the next year or so, for those people, I would say act now. Act right now while we are not dealing with whatever's going to come at the result of the tariffs. Prices, I think it does seem like, looking at the prices on PC Part Picker, like watching my list for these two PCs and for the $1,000 PC I built kind of as an example, not built, but picked out the parts on PC Part Picker. those prices look like they're trending upward. It's not really a trend yet because there's not enough data to go off of yet, but it feels like that. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm gonna wrap this video up. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see where we are in a few weeks. There's a story about this on GamesBeat.com if you want to read that and sort of see more about the build guide that we picked here, and like why we picked these components and what we like about them, and some alternatives, and like what you could, if you're trying to build a $1,000 machine instead, like what you should go with. Lots of stuff in that story, so check that out. Thanks for watching. I know that was kind of a bummer. Point is that if you were going to build a PC over the next year, you should build one right now. Like, you shouldn't wait. You shouldn't hesitate. If you are in any other sort of bad financial situation, don't put yourself in a worse one by trying to make a build a PC. It's okay to like maybe just get something. There will still be options for you in some ways. People will get creative. We'll find out what happens. But yeah, otherwise, for most people that were considering building a PC, I would just say act now. That's the big takeaway here. Okay, I'm gonna end this video. There's more on GamesBeat.com about like why I picked these parts, why I like them, what you like, alternatives if you're trying to build a cheaper, more affordable mainstream gaming PC. That's all in that story, so check that out on GamesBeat.com. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm gonna go. Bye.